Hi everyone, my name is Farid Zaki and I am your chef for today and we are going to be talking about the recipes of success in business. So I thought, being an accountant is a little bit of a dry subject, so we usually try to make it a little bit fun and engaging. So I thought we are all in business some way or another. Either it's our own business or we are working part of a business and we always have KPIs, we have targets to meet. So it's really important to look at what is it, the ingredients that makes any business successful. And as you can see, I'm dressed up as a chef, so we can talk about that recipe.
As long as I get some food, you're gonna give me some food.
I'm giving you chocolates. So let's look at some basic things that work in business. So the foundation of everything is, of course, having a vision and having a purpose for whatever it is that we're doing, whether it be in business, whether it be in our personal life. We really need to have a vision. Just like if I am traveling to an area and I want to go to that place, I usually check it out. I see how it looks. I check out the direction of how I'm going to get there. What is the plan? What's the steps to drive from one place to the other? So in any business that we do, we need to look, the foundation is really about the vision and the purpose. Obviously, most of us who are business owners really have gone into business because we have passion for what we do. We love what we do. The thing is, sometimes we get burned out in that journey and we lose momentum and wonder what happened. I used to love what I do, but I don't anymore. And that's why we're actually talking about today and looking at what steps can we actually do. So as a start, we have to have a clear vision where we want to do, what is our purpose in the business, what do I do in my business. And I think Lee talked about that, is knowing who your customers are and how you can reach them and where do they actually hang around. Okay, so we'll talk about a couple of good ingredients, but also, like any chef will tell you, there will be bad ingredients. So we'll try to do some of the good ingredients in our business, but we'll also try to avoid some of the bad ingredients. And I'm happy, of course, please stop me anytime if you have questions or if you have any comments. So I think the first very important ingredient in any business or any organization is about leadership. Because that's really where the success starts. And leadership is not about me standing up and telling everyone else what do they do. Leadership is about being engaged in that process and actually going and doing stuff with people. So we talk about what is a good leader do. So they establish goals, they drive the business, they lead by example. I think that's a very important thing. A lot of times in leadership, we think it's about sitting in a desk and ordering everyone around. But realistically, it's not. It's about being there, getting our hands dirty. Be adaptable. I think that's very important, that we are in business adaptable. And if it means that I'm an accountant and I need to dress up as a chef, well, I have to be adaptable, right? So be adaptable in your business, whatever it is that you have to do. Motivate and inspire those that work around you, your employees, your staff, your contractors, if you're using your contractors. Your collaborative partners, so if you work with an awesome team around you, collaborate with them, inspire them. So the first ingredient that we really have to look at is strong leadership. Second ingredient, very, very important and very relevant these days, is about innovation and adaptability. It's about finding what is it that different. I remember when I started my practice in 1997, well, we didn't really have phones, we didn't have videos, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have LinkedIn, we didn't have a lot of these things. Maybe LinkedIn was around, but I didn't know about it at that stage. But it's about finding what is it that we can innovate and do in our business. I remember when I started doing accounting, we used to do spreadsheets in an A3 paper, and it had columns, right? Eric, we will die if we do that these days, right? we'll probably really Sarah will agree with me, is like you really would not enjoy it anymore. So using the systems, adaptability, there's softwares that help you crunch the numbers, do things. Stay with that. When you are innovating in your business, you are staying on top of things and you are on the top of the gravity. Look at latest trends. Adjust to changes in the market. Is it easy to stay where we are today and do exactly what we did 10 years ago? Naturally, we're humans, we don't like changes. So it's easier to say, I'm not going to change. Because as humans, we tend to just like to stay in our comfort zone. But it's all about saying, no, I need to get out of my comfort zone and adjust to changes in the market. Look at ways that other people in your industry are doing. Be better than everyone. I always talk about collaboration rather than competition. Sometimes in industries we feel that we're competing with each other, but not necessarily. We are all working together and each of us has different talents. This could be exactly the same industry but having different talents. I think also something very important in business is to be persistent. Because a lot of times people think, I'm going to start my business, everything will be okay, everything will be flowery in 12 months time, like I'll be driving a Maserati, I'll be living in this place, everything will be okay. Well, maybe it will happen, but more likely you have to be persistent and work hard to get there. Customer focus. I think in whatever industry we have, whether we are in business, whether we are in government, whether we are in whatever industry we are, we need to think, what is my customer and what do they like? I need to be focused on them. I always, if anybody had a catch up with me one-to-one, I always have this drawing that I do where I put a C and I put a big box around it and I say, we are customer centered. If you are customer centered, you will put people around you that help and serve that customer. It's about connecting and finding what is it that my customer wants to do. And obviously being in an industry like the industry I'm in, being an accountant, maybe my customer wants me to do illegal stuff. Okay, well I'm not going to do it, so I'm not telling you do everything a customer wants, but it's educate the customer. If the customer comes to me and say, you know what, today I decided that I don't want to pay any tax anymore. Okay, well let's talk about what is the legal stuff that you can do to lower your tax. But not put the money under the tile and not declare it, obviously that's illegal. So we educate the customer because sometimes customers, unfortunately, or clients, they talk to other people that are not professionals. And we see that in our industry a lot of times. People ask their friend in the pub who has no idea what they're talking, but they just found out about it. I had a customer who rang me the other day and he said, I spoke to 4 people and they told me that that's how it's done. I said to him, the speed in the street is 70. If you drive 90 every day, does it make it correct? It doesn't. It just happened that you never get caught. And unfortunately, that's how people think sometimes, if I am in there. So it's about educating that customer, but also being centered. Whatever the customer tells us, a lot of times it's a good indication of what they want us to do. So third good ingredient is customer focus. Fourth good ingredients, effective teamwork and culture. I think it's very important that we always look at collaboration with our employees, with our support staff, with our contractors, everyone we run around with. It's about having that collaborative approach and think, you know what, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the team. And I think this is something really good to actually involve everyone. And part of being a leader is about actually putting others in front of you and helping them and encouraging them and supporting them and building them. So while they are growing with you in your business. Have a positive attitude. I think Lee mentioned that nobody likes negative attitude. It's very degrading. It puts people down. I don't think anybody likes to have an environment where they feel negative. Even if they've done mistakes, it's let's talk about it rather than actually be negative about it. Working as a team, of course, with the same focus, increases creativity and overall success in our business. Ingredients number 5, and of course as an accountant I'll have to talk to you about that, is financial management. In business, you can do everything right, but if you stuff up your figures, you stuff up everything. Whether you are in business, whatever it is that you are part of, if you don't run your numbers properly, things will go wrong. And I see that all the time. is understanding the budgeting in your business. How do your figures work? Is it more important to do more sales? A lot of people think it's important to do more sales, and they give huge discounts. But the process that they're doing is the huge discount, they end up cutting their gross profit and their net profit. So they end up making more money coming in the bank, but by the time they pay their suppliers, their employees, their rent, and they have nothing left. And they wonder, why am I not doing good in business? Because it's not really about the sales that are coming in, but what is the bottom line that you're doing. Understanding things in your numbers. So when you are looking at your financials, everyday management of your accounts, you understand what is sales, what's your gross margin. If you're selling products, what do you make out of a specific product that you're selling? You might lose some money in one product, but you make money in another product. It's about finding these numbers. Understanding your break-even sales. If you are in a professional services, understand your break-even dollar per hour. Because I see that a lot of time. People say, I've charged in this job $10,000. Excellent, that's very good. How many hours did you spend in that? 1,000 hours? So that's okay. So let's do the numbers. Did you really get your per hour rate? It's not. So it's very important to actually look at what is that break even, whether it be in your sales, whether it be in your income. Costs is also something very important. I'm a very strong believer that you don't focus a lot on your costs, especially the costs that you can't change, but it's about bringing your numbers up by trying to make more money out of the same cost that you're paying. If you've got to pay rent for the same shop that you have, well, guess what? You can negotiate with the landlord as much as you want, but they're not really going to drop the rent that much, so move on with it. If you need good staff, you've got to pay the figures for them. You've got to pay them the hourly rate that they're entitled to. So just move on with it. But find out what these costs are, and then say, okay, well, this is my break-even point. That's how many sales I need to make. That's the margin I need to make. So understanding those numbers is very important. Cash flow management is quite serious, really, in business. And you would think I'm just an accountant and I'm just dishing you that information. But realistically, it's about managing your cash flow. And unfortunately, the world we live in, because you do borrowing, you can borrow money, you can dip into your credit cards, you can take money from your overdraft in your home, and so on and so forth. Sometimes we lose track that our business is actually going backwards. But the reason that the business is going backwards is because it's feeding from your credit card, it's feeding from your home loan. And I've seen a lot of sad times when people actually dip into their home loan and they use that for their business, and it's okay, I understand that you could do that part of your business when the business needs it, but you need to have a strategy of how you're going to pay that money. Because at the end of the day, we are in business to make money, and we make money to build our wealth. It's not the other way around. I see that a lot of times when people jump into business, they have a good wealth before they started the business, and then they start chipping away by borrowing money to keep on their business. So they end up, rather than building their wealth, they go backwards. And sometimes as a startup in a business, you do need to borrow those money. I don't have a problem with that, as long as you have a strategy. And of course, knowing your financials, knowing what is a profit and loss, what is a balance sheet. Ask your accountant, speak to your bookkeeper. Please explain things to me. What do I need to look for? Whatever it is that I'm selling in a customer, what is the margin that I need to make? And I can't stress more about this being an accountant, because realistically, the success and the continuance of any business depends on your numbers. Now, if you're not in business and you are an employee, same scenario as well. You have to have a strategy about building your wealth. If you're 30 years old, or you're 40 years old, or you're 50 years old, no matter how old you are, it's about converting the money that you have today, putting some aside for investment, putting aside for building your wealth. Because at the end of the day, when you reach a certain age where you can't work anymore, you have a beautiful baby that is young, you want to have a future for that baby. I can't imagine when the baby grows, they want to come and buy a property. If the property is worth 1.5 today, I can't imagine how much it will be. Is it a good time to start to think, how can I invest so that my babies, when they grow, they have a bit of an asset to stand on that I can help them on, rather than just run our numbers and just keep going not thinking about how I can partition some of my wealth. I think in business and even if you are not in business and you're an employee, it's about building your wealth. It's using every single dollar that you have, obviously pay the things that you have to pay for, but also segregate some for investments. Because these days it's easy to borrow money from everywhere, and then you find yourself in so much debt and you are stuck. So, all right, so we talked about all the good ingredients. I'll come to a summary quickly at the end, but let's talk about bad ingredients. And I see that all the time: poor planning and strategy. Strategy is another word for planning. Okay, it's basically having no plan at all, or the plan is bad, or a plan might be relevant for 5 years. Like in the past, people used to set up a business, will do a business plan, and the business plan might stay with the business for 5 years. These days, you can't do that, because realistically, things change very, very quickly. And there are factors that are outside our business, which will mean that a lot of things will actually change in our business. So it's about what is it that we can do. So very important that to fix poor planning is that we have to set up a plan first. The plan has to have realistic goals. So don't say, I'm making 100,000 today turnover, I want within 12 months to make $1 million. Is that a realistic target? Because what happens is, when you set unrealistic targets, you then end up not achieving them, and obviously you end up losing hope and think, oh, this is not working. Step by step. Think about, if you are climbing a mountain, you will need to go step by step. You're not going to go at the top of the mountain that quickly. Manage your goals as you go. Revisit things with your accountant, with your bookkeeper, with your financial planner, with your lender, everybody that's around you, and talk about that. Track your progress. And I see that a lot of times people look back and say, oh, well, I haven't really achieved. But we say, okay, well, look back at 12 months. How many properties did you have? How many cars are you driving? Oh, yeah, I actually bought this property last 12 months. But see, there is progress. But you're not going to get 10 properties straight away, but it's one step at a time. So look back and say, I have really achieved and worked really hard. Continuous improvement in your business. Identify risks, make sure that everything is covered, and if you do have any risks, you just manage them, very importantly. Another poor ingredient is we neglect our talents that we have, and we see that a lot of times these days because there is very short staffing problems there. We don't really invest in the talents that we have. Send your employees for training, or the staff that you work with. A lot of times people get threatened about teaching their employees stuff. No, why? People say, oh, well, if I teach them, maybe they will leave. Well, if you don't teach them, what if they stay and stuff your business? Do you want them to do that? You're better off to teach them and they take your business forward and leave in 2 years, rather than you don't teach them, they stay in the business for 10 years, but they take your business backwards. So teach them, empower them, because that's how they can grow. Mentor. I think it's really a responsibility, and especially for us who've been hanging around for a while, is extend a hand, help others, and say, what is it that I can help with, especially the younger generations. If you can mentor people, why not give them that? Obviously, if you are, and we are all in sales, I think these days it doesn't matter what you do, you're selling either your service, your product, or even your personality. So it's all about sales. So it's about how we can teach others about that. Look into the future, and I think I spoke a lot about that, but have a plan. What is it that you want to do? And have the right team around you to help you with that process. Rather than just ask Bob or Jane in the pub about how to do your future financial planning. Speak to an accountant, speak to a financial planner, speak to your bookkeeper, speak to all of these professionals that are around you. Ignoring market trends, I think that's something that a lot of times, obviously we're very busy doing what we're doing, so we sort of think, do I really have to get into this app? Like, do I really have to get into Instagram? Do I have to really get into LinkedIn? Well, guess what? If that's what the market is, that's what people are getting the information, well, just do it. And if at the beginning you don't have the capacity to do it, hire somebody, get them to start up with you. Obviously, market trends, you got to be careful. You don't want to jump on every shining object, we always say. But monitor, adapt, and see. If you see that things are happening in your industry, you really have to join, then do it. Don't be the last person in. I also say don't be the first person in. It's nice if you're the first person in, but test it out first. Obviously, don't put a lot of resources in something that you don't know if it's going to be successful or not. Research and make yourself having informed decisions in whatever it is that you do. It's very important to research things and find out what it's working, what it's not, and part of that is being customer focused. Ask your customers. If you come up with something and it's so fancy, ask your customer, if I do that in my business, will that help? If the answer is yes, well, go on a discovery with that. Identify opportunities. Don't be scared about doing stuff. Like I remember when Lee and Michael asked me to do a presentation for the expo. It's like, don't know if I can do that. It's scary. Yes, is it scary? It is scary. But at the end of the day, if we don't get out of our comfort zone, we will never really grow. If we stay where we are, unless we take opportunities and those opportunities feel to be a little bit uncomfortable, we never really grow. Obviously, stay ahead of your competitors. Be known to be a market leader. Do something different. Obviously, it's got to be constructive, but people will know you for whatever it is that you do, and you will stand out from your competitors. Customer relationship. I think that's something very important. A lot of times when we are busy doing what we're doing, we end up having very poor customer relationships. And the figures tells us that it is more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to maintain an existing customer. And in our businesses, whether it be that we're selling products, whether it be about having services, it's easier to continue a good relationship with the existing customer, and it's cheaper than it is to acquire new ones. There's nothing wrong with getting new ones, but you've got to look after what you have, because if you don't look after what you have, you will lose out. So foster strong relationships, bring people together, connect people together, see if there's any collaboration that different people can do. Exceed their expectations, under promise and over deliver. I think that's something that is very important. Whatever it is that you can do, provide to the customer, make the customer happy. Be adaptable, personalize your customer service. Have a special touch, whatever it is that you're good. Don't be fake about what you do, but whatever you are good at, just pass it on to the customer. Obviously, ask for customer referrals. That's very important in business. It's very important to do that. And if there is any issues, just manage them. And I think Lee mentioned that sometimes in social media you get a negative post. Well, we're all human, so if you stuffed up something, just apologize and say, I'm sorry, and fix it up. Don't be worried about facing that. So, in summary, I hope I didn't bore you. Key ingredients of success in business. Remember, like the picture says, it's really steps. In business, we are really working steps, step by step. There's nothing wrong about feeling that sometimes you are going on a long journey, but that is really the steps of success. Have a clear vision and have a purpose for your life. Have a strong leadership, and leadership start by service. Always be innovative and adaptable to your industry. Be customer focused. Have effective teamwork and culture. And as an accountant will typically say to you, manage your financials, manage your figures, understand your figures from the little figures to the big figures. Look at your financials and see what is it that I can do to improve my business. Because at the end of the day, we went into whatever that we do, whether it be a job or a business, because we have a passion for what we do. And to continue on to that journey, we need to basically be persistent and have passion for what we do and serve those that are around us, whether it be our customers, whether it be our clients, for our continuous success. So So hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any questions. And yeah, thank you. Mariam, any questions? I'm just picking on you, Mariam.
I've got an accountant next to me. She comes, she's just like, do we have to do a tax return? I'm like, what do you That was a trick question, not an actual. You don't have an accountant.
Emilia is an awesome accountant.
That was a funny question.
Yes, you have to do a tax return.
So what happens to the businesses that don't do their tax return for like 10 years?
Okay. Well, one of two things happen. Eventually the ATO finds out about it. Look, in the past, a lot of things were manual. So the ATO is catching up with a lot of people who has those multiple years. But eventually, if they go to a lender and they want to borrow money, the first thing they will ask for, financials, Mercedes, financials. Everybody's asking for financials these days. In fact, they are asking for last month's financials these days. They're not even looking at 1 and 2 years ago. So I always say, yes, there are businesses that are not doing the right thing. Yes, there are businesses who are not doing their financials and tax returns on time. But guess what? Usually these are the businesses that fail because they are not really on top of their financial management. And it's very easy to get along with doing things, and we see that a lot of times. And the problem with a lot of businesses who are not doing this is obviously they're using the money for GST that they've actually put aside, and they've used that. They could have wages tax for their employees, they've used that superannuation for their employees, they've used that. So obviously that's a big problem, and that's why they don't want to catch up, because they simply don't have the money. But obviously why it is really important to look into things is to make sure that you actually bring things up to date. And yes, you don't want to be the one that has that plenty of years, but you know what? I've had situations where clients come with me and I've done 15 years tax returns. It's okay. It becomes like a snowballing effect. Lodgements of tax returns, just like any regularity obligation, becomes a burden once you haven't done it for a few years, and it becomes too hard basket. I personally do, and I know Emilia does, and all other accountants, we don't really judge. The fact that you have multiple years, there's no problem, we can fix it. But as long as you get on a plan and start working on it. And if you do know anybody that is in that position, speak to them, because at the end of the day, sooner or later the ATO will come onto them, and if the ATO actually comes to the customer, rather than them self-lodge, they end up with huge amounts of penalties. And obviously during the COVID period, the government was not really collecting anything. They were lenient with everything. But at the moment, they are really ramping up things because simply they don't have the money. They need to collect the money. They've given so much, it's about time they need to collect it to pay for things. So we're seeing, for example, a lot of directed penalty notices issued, which effectively means if you have a company in your business, you have a separate legal liability. But when the ATO issues a directed penalty notice, it makes you as a director personally responsible for the debt of the company. So if you have a house, your house could be at risk because the ATO will call on it. If they issue a directed penalty notice and you don't do something about it, they could call on to your home lender and say, you know how they have these $200,000 equity in their home? We want that. And the bank will have to oblige. So it's very important. They are really tracking it. And thank you, that's a very good question. But yeah, it's really important to catch up with things because the ATO is ramping on that, and I think they should. Any other questions?
So you're an accountant and you're obviously very busy. What is the best method of communication to you? So would you prefer that we email you or phone?
Look, it depends. Obviously, based on that, your accountant, it's about how do you actually communicate. With accountants during the COVID period, while everybody was taking photos saying that they're bored out of their wits, we as accountants were working like there's no tomorrow. So obviously there is a lot of catch up in our industry, and we are actually losing a lot of the new generations are not actually coming into the industry as accountants. And a lot of people are actually just giving up the industry altogether because we've been through a lot of issues in our industry. So, yes, sorry, Emilia. Not Emilia. Emilia doesn't have any of these problems. Sorry, I'm not trying to give you a winded answer, but the idea is because of that situation, there's a lot of accountants that are overwhelmed. Catch up with your accountant and say, how would you want me to communicate? Is it by email? Is it by phone? Obviously, it depends on the nature of the inquiry that you have and how urgent it is. And as long as you classify if it is an urgent thing, you will say, look, I need this urgently, can you please do it? And obviously, they will do that. But if everything you ask for is urgent when it's not really urgent, then of course that becomes a problem. Another issue we have as an industry is pricing. I say that, and I don't mean it as an offense for anyone, but if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. A lot of times people in our industries, people look at what the accountant does and they just want a cheap price. Well, guess what? If you do a cheap price, you will get a cheap service. And another issue that we have is international locoming at the moment. For prices to stay low, a lot of accountants are choosing to go overseas to pay less money. I personally, in my firm, I've decided that I'm not doing that for multiple reasons. Not that I don't like people from overseas, but I like to maintain work within Australia, but also I'm not sure if the systems are secured enough. Because as a client, I really know everything about you. I know your name, I know your date of birth, I know your tax phone number, I know your bank account, I know your credit card. I have everything about you. What if that information goes somewhere? I know at least in Australia there is rules and regulations, and I'm not, bagging any other countries. But I'm not sure when that data flows to another country, what is the security level that is going there. So that's another issue with pricing, is when people are giving very cheap prices, you gotta ask the question, is this work going overseas? There's nothing wrong about going overseas, but as long as you have the means and the capacity and the control and the mechanism to do it. So I hope that answered your question. All right, any other questions? Nicole, you have a question?
So much maths. No, I'm going through my head. I'm just like, oh no.
Look, it's not as bad as it is, but yeah. I think one thing we always say, everybody hates numbers, and that's good for us because that's how we get a job. Because if you like numbers, you'll be an accountant, right? So we always like people that hate numbers, but it's about building that and serving. That's my contacts. Obviously, if you need anything, I'm happy to answer any questions and put you onto the right person. And obviously, having a financial team around you is very important, because not everything we can do as accountants. There are certain things that need to be done by lawyers, there are certain things that need to be done by bookkeepers, there are certain things that need to be done by financial planners. So everybody has a different set of capabilities to do things, and that's where things are. And having that group around you that help you and support you to bring your business forward. All right. Any more questions? All good? Super.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I just wondered, for those of you who don't know Farid, a lot of the things that he shared there about connecting people, those are values that he lives. And having that whole the connection and to create that greater value for the customers. So I just wanted to thank you for always being genuine.
Thank you.
Always just doing the connections really, really well.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Look, I believe in connection and collaboration. I'm really a big believer in that, and I actually live that. It's very important. I am standing in front of you today, speaking in this workshop as a result of collaboration, as a result of a connection. I wouldn't be here today has it not been for that opportunity that was presented by connection and collaboration. And the same thing, I believe if I'm receiving like this, I should be passing on around. Because that's how really we create opportunities for others. Because there's so many people like you doing good in whatever business that you're in. But it's just the opportunity, the connection, the person that you know. I might need something, and Peter would say, you know what, I'll introduce you to that person. It's like, if the introduction comes from Peter, it's so much easier than me trying to go and talk to the person directly. Why? Because Peter has a relationship with that person. In another matter, I might need somebody else to do something else. It's about having that. And thank you, Uber, for that point. But I think it is very, very important to share the love. And I think that's another thing. A lot of times people have a closed mindset. They think, I want to keep everything for myself. Obviously, in business, it's not about that. And I watched a video that Peter put on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and he spoke about serving the community, serving your family, and actually reaching out and helping those that are around you. And Peter is actually a person that does things by example. And as busy as he is, he's always there supporting people. So whatever you say was actually something that you do. So I see that in leadership is about actually doing what it is that you actually say that you do. Zaki is taking a selfie. Some of the fun habits. Thank you. Yes, definitely. Yes, I reminded me I have to take a selfie. Do you mind?